Hello people, and welcome to the first episode of our new Cities Skylines snow build, Noveria. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. And how exciting to get started on a new city. I truly believe that there are a few things in life that bring as great a satisfaction as a new city in Cities Skylines, that fresh map, and of course that silky smooth FPS as well, which you lose appreciation for when you're into a city that is as big as Palaven. A huge shout out to content creator Eggsy for remastering the Frozen Shire map for me. He's made it a little more palatable on the eye, and it is linked down in the description below. You can go ahead and download this map if you'd like to build along, or indeed just go ahead and play on it yourself. My mod collection is also linked below. I will clarify that this series is modded, however it is quality of life mods, stuff like prop line tool, plop the growables and forest brush, stuff that should really be included within the game engine itself. However, everything that we do in this city from this episode until the last, you will be able to recreate entirely on the totally unmodded games or on the console versions as well. But that's enough messing around. Let's dive in and start building Noveria, shall we? Okay guys, let's get started on Noveria, shall we? So exciting, starting a new city, and having those perfect frames in again as well. It's you kind of forget how much you appreciate that silky smooth frame rate once you get to a city that's the size of Palaven. But yeah, here we go. So unlike the start of Beguzia and Palaven, we already have our highway exit constructed here for us as part of the Frozen Shire remastered map. So if you're not following along on this particular map, or the regular Frozen Shire version, then just go ahead and construct yourself a regular highway exit. There's a million different videos out there that shows you how to do it at this point. So we're going to come ahead and start from this little arterial here, and of course to get anything unlocked, you need to draw out with a length of small 2-lane road initially. We're coming to our medium roads, and I'm going to upgrade this here, okay? And I think I'm going to bring this out by a distance of 20 tiles from here to there. To give us a nice straight run down, and plenty of decoration opportunities either side of this main arterial road as well. And I think this is going to be a sensible place to come in and drop a small roundabout from our roundabouts tab. This is going to keep our traffic flowing in a nice direction, and it's also going to allow us to kind of upgrade into some impressive bridge over roundabout action when the city's traffic demands it, and we have the budget to support it. And then we'll keep this arterial flowing right across the river and into some kind of eventual downtown over here, right? It's a fair bit away from that yet, but it's going to come at some point, right? At least at some point it will do. Okay, then we'll upgrade this into Arterial 2. We get this nice little run down here. I'm also going to take these two lines at this point, and we can probably delete this one for right now, into Arterial Roads as well. Let's keep going by a distance of 40 tiles for right now. And I'm kind of envisioning this arterial will continue to hug the riverbank here, flow in this direction. But, you know, we'll just kind of see what happens here. We'll draw out by this little distance for the time being, maybe another block of 10 here too. And then let's start to map out some residential patterns. So if we have a look at our toggle snapping tools, we want to make sure road guard lines is on because it gives us these little blue circles on the road. If we take road guard lines off, we can see they disappear. The road guidelines on, we can just kind of see where we're coming out here. So from the second blue circle here, I'm going to come out by a distance of 10 maybe. And these will start to become our first little residential patterns. However, I don't just want to do kind of boring block after block residential here, so we're going to factor in some decoration patterns that we can make use of throughout the series. I'm going to come down by a distance 30 tiles, linking back up with the road guideline at the start of the city here. I'm going to keep everyone very parallel. And again, what I also want to do is kind of factor in some things that we learnt from Palaven, including kind of road against road action, which is one of my favourite types of spice. So we'll have a little look at how we can play with this as well. So again, from this second blue dot, I'm going to come out again by a distance of 640. And I'm looking at that 4 tile gap between the arterial and then these residential patterns right here as well, okay? I think that'll give us something nice to work with. So we'll repeat this side as well. So actually bring it down again up into these boxes. Keep everyone very kind of symmetrical and boxed in here. And then same against here. Take away a little bit of that, and then we'll bring it down to this point. Again, maintaining that 4 tile block between the arterial and the smaller road. Going to allow for lots of symmetrical decoration to help really give an impressive look into the entrance to the city here, okay? And, and eventually, as we did in Palaven, in 20 episodes time, we will have that view to the skyline from the small town, right? Want to kind of maintain our small town vibe and feels here. Then again, from this one, I'm just going to bring up another road to fill in those tiles. That's going to give us some pathway opportunities as well. Alright. That's going to be a nice little basic residential grid. Again, we'll just kind of keep filling this out here, moving in increments 10. Keeping this one going, okay. Let's get some nice longer blocks here to help satisfy that demand. So a nice way just to kind of make sure you're repeating the pattern. If we click on one node and then drag it across to the one we want, we can see it's a construction cost of 800. So we can mimic that size again just by repeating measurements, okay. Very nice. Again, I don't want too many connections along the arterial, so I'm going to start bringing down some further road against road action here and connecting a couple of different places. Okay, just getting a basic kind of town frame set up here. We'll have some nice commercial high street action going on. Then also I'm kind of envisioning a park that hugs a lot of the river, at least on this side. Maybe start a cycle highway from here as well that flows into the downtown and throughout the rest of the map. Kind of a riverside cycle network. Lots of opportunities, of course. So much stuff to get involved with. Okay, and then just for the sake of symmetry, I'm going to bring my arterial up to match up with this grid right here. Okay. This is enough to get us started. Let's have a look at some utilities. So the map here does come with a hydro dam, which of course provides power, and it also comes with some water facilities here too. However, I'm not going to make use of these at the start of the map. We will place our own, just for those following along that might not have these facilities in the map at the start. But we will eventually make use of them once we kind of come over to populate this kind of dam valley here, right? But for the first episode, we're going to kind of produce our own little resources here. So let's come into water. So you can see the starting tile already has the pipes laid out, which is tremendously helpful. It kind of feeds into here, right? So we'll grab our water tower. Yeah, I think I'm going to place this within the middle of the little starting roundabout here. So we'll now start to work on some really basic, quite ugly industrial patterns to line this side of the highway, just to get that initial industrial demand satisfied until we can get into some forestry stuff, probably next episode. So I'm going to come out here again, by a distance of 20 tiles, then just set up some really basic, rudimentary kind of industrial grids, okay, nothing kind of too serious or intense here. I'll probably introduce a smaller one-way flow system into this area as well. Again, just some really basic kind of boxes and patterns, just to get that initial industrial demand met. Nothing too serious. So I'm going to turn this way right here into the entranceway into the industrial area, and then I'm going to add this one as the entrance. So this will be the exit. Now bring them down. Okay. And again, maybe just another couple of blocks here. This won't stay, this will eventually be forestry, and we'll kind of focus on how we can make the industry stuff look a little more beautiful, rather than using the zone stuff, because horrible. I don't like the zoned industry. Okay, so we're going to place the power plant in here. This is going to be our coal power plant. So this is going to provide power for our sims. I'm going to drag a little power line across the highway here, okay? So we'll feed power from our power plant into our water supply, which is going to keep everyone happy, of course. We also need sewage as well, so I think I'm going to use one of the inland water treatment plants for this, as opposed to the water drain pipe, which will pollute our water here, which isn't ideal. But again, a lot of this is temporary. We'll eventually have kind of dedicated spaces for water treatment and sewage and whatnot. I think again, just for nice kind of industrial highway vibes here, I'm going to place this in on an angle next to the power station. Okay, so we now have our base utility services of power, sewage and water set up. And this will now allow us to start bringing in some zoning. The first people into Noveria, those first settlers, right? So we're going to come into our zoning tab and we have a couple different types of zoning we can play with here, including low density residential, low density commercial and industrial. And each of these are color coded and represented by this bar down here, which refers to residential, commercial and industrial demand, of which we only have residential demand at the moment, so that's what we're going to go ahead and build. So usually you can just kind of zone out in these mass squares, right? There's various different tools you can use to do this. You can fill it all in one go if you like. You can paint them in. However, for a specific vibe that I want to generate within this kind of initial small start in town, right? I'm going to do something that I refer to as specifically zoning, which is painting out 4x4 tiles like this, and then waiting for these residences to grow, and then filling in the adjacent tiles that aren't. This gives us a much more uniform, neater look to the initial suburb, and will really kind of pay off in the long run, okay? I'm sticking to very specific tiles here. You can do 4x4s, you can do 3x4s, 3x3s, whatever kind of pattern you want. But being patient with your zoning, it does kind of slow the gameplay down quite a bit. However, I think it does kind of pay off in the long run, at least I think anyway. Gives you a much more uniform suburb, which I think is something we can all appreciate. So we'll allow the game to play, and we're going to carry on with this pattern here, okay? So while these guys are growing, let's have a little chat about the economy. So we're currently sinking about 1,346 a week into upkeep, and we are producing way more power and way more water than we need. Now obviously these numbers here are skewed a little bit by the hydroelectric dam and the water pumps that come with this version of Frozen Shire, but we can still afford to reduce our budgets down by a little bit. I'm going to bring it down to about 62% on either side. If you are playing with the day-night cycle on, you also need to remember to adjust your night sliders as well, but we won't be doing for right now, okay? And then we can just see, as time passes by and we reduce the sliders, budgets will slowly fall, and it'll allow us to just save a little bit more money until the city requires that much power. Very nice. So time to get some zones in here now. Continue to fill in those gaps that we left. Okay, very small specific zonings, nothing too crazy here, right? Again, we've got some room, some pathways to flow through here too. I'm going to leave these squares empty. Likewise with these ones as well, just allow everyone to flow through. We'll carry this on with our little 4x4 grids here, okay? Everyone moving. I think what I'll do is move over to this side, leaving these squares in the middle for some pathways to come through. Of course, leaving ourselves decoration opportunities is always appreciated, always something we can get on board with, right? Let's keep it coming in, and we can see now that these demands are starting to rise and fall as people start to move into the city here. So, we now have some commercial demand. Let's begin to zone in some commercial assets. And I'm going to keep these kind of along the high street, okay? So maybe let's start out with a batch of 3 deep commercial along this run here, right? Maybe save a tile at one point to come through some path decoration. And again, how about a nice big batch of it along here too. So we'll start to see something of a commercial high street develop in this area, okay? I think this will be okay. You can see now that the power is singing through from our water tower into the neighbourhood here, so we don't need to worry about the power lines coming into this part of the town. Everyone's just going to start sinking through. Here we go. It's going together, isn't it? We can get very specific repeated patterns if we wanted to. This is a really nice looking asset in the snow. Little 4x4 level 1 residential here. Definitely get some of these maybe facing into the arterial. because we are playing with find it and prop the growables from the start today, which I will use very sparingly. We won't go too crazy, and it'll mainly be used for kind of high density residential and whatnot, so we can get those nice assets in. We'll start to see our little high street develop here. Be nice. We'll also factor in some entrances into that Riverside Park as well from here, which will be nice. And we will get through our first couple of milestones today as well. That's it, so everyone's going up. Let's carry on zoning up here. Keep those people moving in. Again, just going to keep repeating. Put 4x4 patterns. Saving a distance of 2 tiles in the middle so people can traverse using those pathways. So again, we can now see we have some industrial demand beginning to creep up, represented by this little orange bar here. So let's continue to place in industrial. Again, we can specifically zone this, but this area will be deleted in favour of some forestry, so I'm just going to kind of fill all this in generally right now. Let it come in by itself. We're not overly bothered about this area for the time being. Okay, so things are still cooking here. Carrying on with my repeated, very specific zoning patterns here, okay? Then what I'm going to do here is save maybe some kind of internal parkland where we have some kind of odd zonings. I'm going to bring my 4x4s in here, okay? Leave these 3x3 spaces 3. And we'll allow the parkland to cross through this area too, okay? We got some quite nice designs in today, I think. And we'll continue the designs here. And into these spaces. You can just kind of see how I'm aligning the zonings either side of the small roads. Leaving plenty of room for pathways to come through rather than just kind of mass zoning all in one go, right? Get the game on 3 speed for once and actually wait for kind of our city to level up here, okay? Let's have a little look around us how we're looking. I have heard that snow maps are kind of difficult to decorate, which I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with them. Get some people moving around here. In the little snowsuits, little hats. Just phasing through the walls. They are that happy to be living in Noveria, they have ascended beyond their physical being. Have a look at how our industrial area is shaping up too. Kind of generating some industrial vibes here, but you know, this kind of stuff won't stay. We will use some of the generic zoned industry, mainly for decoration. Especially with these assets right here, these little 4x4 freight container ones. These work quite nicely. Especially with their little snow cap on them now as well, that's very cute. I feel like we're going to get a lot of blown away egg today, looking at assets in in their snowy forms. And we have just hit our first population milestone, little hamlet, and this is going to give us some pretty exciting buildings and themes. So we're going to get access to taxes and loans. We're also going to get garbage, healthcare and education. And then these assets that are included with each of these milestones as well. Your milestones will look slightly different depending on what DLCs that you do and don't have. So if you're seeing something that's here that isn't in your screen, that's probably why it's coming from a DLC. Okay, so with that milestone as well, we also get a little cash injection. Just first of all, check on our taxes. So we can set the tax rate here, and kind of the golden spot, the golden rule is 12% for each of these. Any lower, you're kind of not making the most amount of money you can. Any higher, and you'll start to get Sims complaining that taxes are too high, and then they'll start to leave, which is never particularly a good thing. Okay, very nice. Let's have a look at our school assets. There's a couple of ones we can use here, and depending on what themes you have active, I have the European theme on, but I also have access to the European versions of these. We have a couple of different options available to us. So there's the community school and the elementary school, which will satisfy our elementary school availability. So this is the first thing we're going to want to place here. I think rather than just placing them on a road like this, it's kind of boring. It's I think it deserves a little more importance than that. I'm going to grab a little road here, going out of this junction, okay? I think I'm going to save 3 tiles between the arterial and the small road. And then let's bring this out to there for right now. I'm also going to grab our community school and place this on the corner as well. This community school here comes with the Green Cities DLC, and it's going to educate our Sims here. Educate our young Sims. We've allowed some decoration opportunities here opposite, just so it kind of gives a little more emphasis and importance on the school. Okay, and I'm also going to bring in a little box road around the back of it. And then save room for a little kind of playground asset once we unlock our park life stuff, which will just help kind of flesh the school out a little bit too. So we'll leave that there for right now. Now we're going to take a look at some garbage as well. So we've unlocked the landfill site, so this will go around and collect garbage from the city. However, it also fills up, but we do have the recycling centre as another option available to us. It's slightly more expensive, but it doesn't fill up and it doesn't have quite as much capacity as the landfill site. So the sensible option here is to run with the landfill site until you unlock some more with the more efficient garbage processing that comes with Green Cities and Sunset Harbour. But for right now, I think I'm just going to run with a single recycling centre for the size of this city. We'll place it within our industrial area here, okay? That's going to keep the garbage controlled within the city anyway. Let's double check our zoning squares here again, make sure that we've filled out everything that we intended to. So we've got a little more space here to get involved with. Start filling these guys out, okay? Again, it's kind of the whole initial start of the game is keeping your eyes on these demands and... Okay, so let's have a little conversation about traffic lights. They do have their place within the game, however, for this arterial run here, I do want them to remain free. I want this road to have the right of way, so to speak. So if we come into our info views here and we click on the traffic routes icon, we can come across to junctions and then we can toggle the traffic lights here. Then also some stop signs alongside the kind of the smaller residential roads here. That's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to put some stop signs there, okay? And then again, there's no other traffic lights we need to address for the time being. So we'll allow that to flow. And now this street will just have the priority. Don't want people kind of waiting here to come through. Just a little stop sign. Allow the traffic to just kind of continuously flow, okay? Very nice. In that last milestone, we did also unlock the med clinic, which is 400 a week, which is kind of expensive for the money that we're making at the minute. And to be honest, the healthcare mechanic within Cities Skylines isn't overly fleshed out. People don't really get sick that often. And it's more of a kind of a happiness boost for the people in the area. So again, for right now, I'm going to avoid placing the med clinic for a little bit until our budget is a little more stable. Okay, so we've filled out this kind of initial zoning design and idea here. So I want to go ahead now and start to expand our patterns a little bit. So let's grab our arterial and then we're going to grab reform tool this time. And from this point, I'll say we're going to grab the curve tool instead, I think. We're going to grab a nice little 10 curve, which is represented by the second smaller blue line here. Okay, and I just want a nice smooth curve that's going to continually flow parallel with the river, okay? So introducing some different kind of shapes and curves into the area now as well. And likewise as well with our grid, you know, this kind of grid functions, it will serve its purpose for however long you need it. But it's not particularly interesting to look at, especially from our bird's eye view, so it's kind of straight roads and whatnot. So let's start to introduce maybe a couple of different curves. So as the arterial begins to bend away from the grids, I want to keep the grids moving in a somewhat straight line, okay? So I'm going to break the line here and then draw in kind of a regular box, okay? Then I'm going to line up on the node, bring out a small road, and then start to introduce some curves within the box itself, okay? And then keep these flowing at different points. Allows us to integrate some nice green belt into the area too. And also just to help shatter that initial grid pattern, okay? I think we're also going to bring curve road into here as well, so that curve continues to flow as it leaves the box. Which again, will just help shatter our grid pattern. Okay, so now I'm going to snap onto the road guideline of the arterial. And introduce another straight piece here for us to work with. Okay. I'm going to grab my freeform tool with the road guideline on, tapping onto the rear guard line of the road we just placed. And again, just get a nice smooth curve transition. So you can kind of see how just a couple of little tips and tricks with the curve tool and the freeform tool can just help us to start shatter that grid pattern, introduce some more kind of curvy angles and bends into the area, and just kind of play with a couple of different ideas. So again, what we can do here, so going back to measuring the distance again with our straight road tool, you can see the distance here was 920, so I kind of want to replicate that gap again up on this point. So if we were to come out by a distance of 920 with no road guideline on, so we'll have our distance of 920 on this side. Okay. Then coming back to our road guideline, we can then again back onto this one here. And we can just get that nice smooth curve in again. Again, we're just starting to edge away from those super straight edge roads and to break out of the grid just a little bit. And similarly, we can even use the grid to kind of help decorate our internal areas within these curvier roads. So maybe we're going to start coming out, just form a little kind of micro grid structure within the curves. This is just going to all help keep our residential patterns a little more interesting and a little more easier to look at, I guess is the phrase, right? So again, we have a bunch more residential demand right now, so let's carry on zoning up with a little 4x4 patterns here. I think actually what I might do is let's change up the 4x4 pattern, okay? Maybe let's start going for 3x4s. Which again, will just start to help introduce some different looking assets. And keep our suburb looking as interesting as possible, okay? Again, where the pattern fractures here, great opportunity for some green belt if you wanted to do that. Okay? But you know, we'll get to that, it's all going to come. Again, keeping my, put some trees here as well. Keeping my kind of chosen pattern for the area going, alright? Keep it happening here. Again, you can kind of see where these spaces are lined up now for our pathways to come through. Which will really help decorate the town. Towards the detail in time lapse of the episode today, I think, okay? We can just see now we're getting this little suburban sprawl developing. Looking quite nice. Of course, this will all be decorated once we unlock the park life milestone. And likewise with the back of these shops as well. So the commercial does produce the tiniest amount of noise pollution, you can see here. Low density residential is not particularly friendly to noise pollution. You can kind of see where they're spilling into this red band here. These guys will probably get noise pollution signals at some point, but we can actually reduce the sound that spills from the commercial into the residential with some trees, which again, once we get to our kind of decoration milestone, we'll be able to do that and save these guys some noise pollution problems. Nice for everyone involved, I think, won't it? So rather than just painting out all your available zonings and waiting for it to grow, just being a little more choosy with what assets are actually going to grow within this square and help us to formulate a much nicer looking suburb. So again, I'm going to maybe save this middle spot here for some greenbelt action. Maybe get a little park in here. All the kind of houses are facing into it. We'll kind of cover various different residential detail and designs that kind of fall into this remit today as well. Again, just going to keep my larger squares filling out. Got a little more commercial demand now as well, so let's begin to fill out the area here. And again, I can kind of see there's maybe an opportunity here for some kind of slightly layered commercial vibes if we wanted to. Maybe even bring in a little commercial riverfront if we wanted to do that. Come head into our forest brush and clear out a bunch of these trees here. If you don't delete the trees and they are deleted by an asset by you placing them, these still actually count as being there, so it kind of eats into your tree count, so it might be something you want to be aware of. It's usually a good idea to clear out vast amounts of trees before you build on them. Okay, and then we can link into this little school road here as well. We can maybe even now start to generate a little bit of kind of riverfront commercial here too, which will be nice. Okay, I'm just going to factor into our riverfront park here as well, at some point when we get to it. But right now, we want to keep ploughing on through those population milestones, which we are very nearly at the next one of Worthy Village, which gives us some nice stuff to play with. We are quickly approaching it. There we go, there it is. So it's going to give us a new tile to play with. We're also going to get districts, policies, second loans, specializations, and service policies. We're also going to get the forestry and agriculture specializations alongside some emergency services, which we'll place in a minute as well. And then a bunch of policies from the Green Cities District, and then some other stuff as well, which we will cover momentarily. Okay, let's have a little look at what has been unlocked. So first of all, we're going to want to place some fire protection. And you can kind of see as we come into our fire tab, everything that is flammable is highlighted in red. And we currently have a very high fire hazard risk because we have no fire stations, which is expected, you know, happen. So I'm going to place my little firehouse right here. A little firehouse here. It's going to send fire trucks out to put out fires as and when they appear. So hopefully they won't be as frequent as Polygon's. Polygon was in a constant state of flames and fire, so maybe Noveria will be different. I guess we'll see, right? Okay. And likewise again, we also have our police station. And then again, I think rather than just placing this on a road, kind of take a similar idea and theme with it with the community school, okay? Just kind of set back from the arterial with a little bit of a garden or some kind of decoration out in front of it, be it a plaza or a car park. Just something that draws a little more attention to it, okay? We're going to carry on my arterial run down here. You can snap into the road guideline. You can see that we're remaining parallel with this run here, which is going to be fine. I think we'll also bring a connection down into the arterial at this point. Again, don't want loads of connections here, but enough so that all these guys over here aren't bottlenecking down this way. You know, they have options to get back onto from this arterial. And again, maybe a little space here. So it's a little awkward for zoning. Not entirely sure I want vast amounts of zoning on that square right there, okay? Just going to draw out a little distance of 120 either side. Okay. Let's grab our police station now. So we got the European version or the American version. It's kind of up to you. Which one you want to use. I think I'm going to go with the European one. I think it's just kind of a nicer looking asset, okay? And then just placing this here, just on its lonesome, okay? Then again, once we come into kind of the decoration side of things, we can have a look at how we can kind of make this a little more spicy, okay? Again, maybe much more commercial in these larger squares here. Leaving plenty of room again for our green belt to come through, and seeing what we can do with a little police station asset as well. Plenty of options today, I'm sure. Plenty of options. And we actually have very few issues popping up around the city at the minute, which is, I think, always appreciated, right? I think it's going quite well. He says, sounding surprised. Okay, so I'm happy with what's going on here, and once we've got our decoration in with fences and trees lining this kind of entrance up to the city here and pathways cutting through, I want this pattern mimicked on this side of the arterial as well, okay? A very kind of symmetrical entrance into the small town. Something that I think I'm going to be on board with. So let's break this exit here and see how far we're coming out. Again, just by remeasuring with our straight road tool, we can see we're out by a distance of 1020. So we'll repeat that here as well. Okay. And then at the end of that 1020, we are coming down with a straight road by a distance of 1600. Which again, will match up with this guideline right here. Then similarly so, we can maybe come in from this point. We know we're at 640. Then we can just start to repeat these designs, themes and ideas, just so we have that zoning space here too. Okay, then maybe bring that one up as well. So just mimicking that initial road pattern, and then what we can do is maybe take off some different curved vibes from this side, and then likewise with kind of the top of this landmass as well. So grids, whilst they are, I guess, somewhat rudimentary, they are kind of really helpful for noobs starting the game. They work, and they can look good as well when they're done right. They're not always kind of a boring eyesore, I suppose is the word, okay? We're just going to keep our game running on 3 speed here, just keep getting that population in. It's all about getting in those initial taxpayers, and then you can kind of focus on making the city look a little more beautiful when we come into that part of the episode today, but getting that population in, okay? And remembering our specifically zoned theme and ideas here, okay? Start to see some houses looking out onto this main arterial now as well. We may at some point introduce a little road connection in here, but I don't really want people skipping the arterials, you know, these roads are here to keep you flowing. There we go, there's the first fire, of course it is. That's happened in the first episode, right? So, prime example now, you can see we've got a fire truck on the way. These guys are being distributed from that firehouse that we just placed. I'm going to head over here now and go and extinguish the fire, which would be nice. Thank you so much for your service, very much appreciated. Again, saving that space for pathways to flow through. It's going to give us a lot of nice decoration opportunities once we hit that milestone. I feel like I'm repeating that a lot today, but I really kind of find my cities come to life once we hit that park milestone. It really kind of makes a difference as to how the city looks and it kind of generally feels as an authentic city. Okay, so let's have a look at the houses. So a lot of them are all still level 1 at the minute, which is indicated by these little bars here as they progress through. They kind of pay more tax, hold more people, so it's good to have houses level up through their respective levels. I think now our budget can justify a med clinic, and there's a really nice spot for it right along the corner here. So let's place the asset first of all. Okay, so I think I'm just going to integrate this as part of my high street. It's also going to make everyone around us, everyone around the medical clinic anyway, really quite happy because they now have medical care, which is obviously an important thing in life. Lots of people mooching through here now as well. Lots of people walking. Which of course our paths will help with as well, which will be very much appreciated. So we can see now that the power sink has come through from this area. We can actually remove the power line here and then bring it up to this point, and then delete these guys here, so that way everyone is going to flow through with the power network. And then we'll just kind of see. Little suburb develops. I'm a big fan of these assets. This is the point where I might want to use plop the growables in order to get these in. It's like a repeated line of these houses along the front. So again, population's going up, we're nearly at the next milestone, which will give us a whole bunch more things to play with. Including decoration, I think the next one is it? I'm pretty sure it is, right? Yes, park areas, wonderful. That's exactly what we want. Waiting for that ever important park milestone to really help bring at least an overcharged egg city to life, right? At the minute, it's not looking too bad at the minute, but this is what we're after, okay? So tiny town, a population of 1,500 gives us access to park and industrial areas, landscaping and policies. A whole bunch of parks and plaza stuff, loads of park policies, lots of park assets, lots of very nice things here that all contribute to improving the look of our city. Again, all of this will look vastly different depending on what DLCs you do and do not have. For which, remember, there is a link down below to Instant Gaming, which does help support the channel if you are looking to pick up any of the DLCs. Okay, so let's start to discuss pathways for the first time in the city. We have a huge little bit of paths on the channel, and there's a couple of little things we can do here in order to kind of spice up the entrance into the city, okay? So we could bring an elevated path over. We'll kind of discuss a couple of different palettes here, okay? So I'm going to snap into everything but road guideline here. I want to be snapping into angle, grid, road length. I'm going to come out by a distance of 140. And then this little button down here, the elevation step, will indicate how high our path or road rises when we hit the page up button. So if we can come up by 1 increment with the highest step, it's going to be a really large incline. And then likewise, if we come down to the lowest step and then start coming up, you can see it's a little more gradual and a little more smooth. Okay. Very nice. I think I'm going to have a little elevated pathway here that's going to cross over both sides of this arterial. And again, using our tip to remeasure, we can come down and find out it's a distance of 162, which we can repeat in this area as well, using our page down button to come back down to Earth. Okay, that's going to give us a nice little elevated design, okay? I think I'm fairly happy with that for the time being. Now some people start to pick this up as well as a potential opportunity back and forth rather than having to walk or drive all the way around here. Okay, I think I'm fairly happy with that. So then what I'm going to do here is grab ourselves a gravel path and come out by 2 tiles. Then I'm going to come down this section instead, okay? Then I'm going to grab my nature reserve path with decorations and then upgrade it into that. So the part life paths, they perform slightly differently than the vanilla paths. They're not quite as flexible in terms of the spaces you can draw them in. So if you're having a little difficulty placing them in, I'll try and explain what I'm talking about here. So if we were to do this one as nature reserve path straight away, can't snap onto the second node just because of the way that the part life paths behave. It's just the way they're programmed. However, if we do a dirt path, first of all, we can actually snap into the second node and then come back with the upgrade tool and then upgrade them into part paths. So it's kind of up to you which one you want to do, but you can kind of see the price behind them, right? Okay, so we're starting to develop some little path ideas here now, right? So I'm going to bring these down until these corners, and again eventually we bring them around this point for some surrounding green belt that's going to border up along the highway. I think I'm fairly happy with these guys as well. You can also see that the orientation of the lights switches depending on how we draw this in. And then I'm going to come into my freeform tool here now. So let's line it up this side as well. So we'll now start to look at some path decoration for this point. And discuss a few templates here before we jump into the detail and time-lapse of the episode. You know, I've saved all this space here. Maybe let's come through with one of these dirt paths again. And we'll bring a second pathway out from this point. And then let's come off all of our snapping. And then we'll just squeeze through these little areas here. Coming back, upgrade into that nature reserve path. Same here again as well. And everything that we've placed. Okay. And how about we discuss some fence designs? So nature reserve fence is a firm favourite, of course. I'm just going to come into the grid here. And then going to draw up some fences that are just going to border the arterial road as we come into the city, okay? And then we'll have kind of that grander, more important design beginning to appear within the city now, okay? Very nice. So a lot of the paths here are kind of more aesthetically pleasing as opposed to functional. And you can see there will be some people picking them up. Okay, so let's have a look at some repeated tree pattern ideas for the episode. So we have a couple of different conifer designs here. I think I'm going to go with conifer 1. Again, I am playing with the prop line tool here. My mod collection is down in the description below if you want to go ahead and check it out. This makes placing repeated tree patterns like this a little easier. So maybe have a row of conifers. I'm going to sit here, okay? Again, we're just kind of really accentuating that symmetry and entrance into the town. Also get some bushes in here as well if we wanted to. You know, just having kind of a grander, more detailed entrance into a district just helps give it a little bit more personality, a little more identity. That's not an incredibly pretentious thing to say. I don't think it is. I think it's okay, but you know, I'm hoping I'm hammering the point home here, okay? That's basically what I'm trying to say. Let's also have a look at some park assets as well. Let's dive into the world of parks, and we will place in perhaps a small playground, which I mentioned we will use to almost expand the school asset. So this little small playground here, it's going to serve as a park area to increase the happiness of our Sims locally. Also serve as a nice little extension to the community school. You can kind of see there's some similar assets here with the swings and the tables and roundabout. It's kind of looks like a kid's play area, right? Because that's what it is. It's a small playground. You know, you can kind of use the idea to expand the asset. And again, talking about decoration themes in front of our school, let's have a look at some pathway designs here. So we'll come through first of all, again, using our vanilla game gravel path. Then going to grab some fences and come off with all our snapping. And try and do some decoration boxes or flower gardens here if you like, okay? So I'm just going to come really close in. Snapping isn't always your friend, kind of depends in the space that you're working with. So just to make sure I get a nice straight angle snap here, I'm going to turn on my angle snapping. Bring it back up to the top as far as we can. Then bring it in. This just doesn't give me a nice little square fence, okay? We're going to do the same here as well. Okay, I'm just going to bring it up to see where we can snap it into. And there again, okay? And how about we grab ourselves a couple of little trees here. Again, this is where I'm kind of figuring out the detailing palettes for Noveria, everyone. I believe... Are these trees always dead with the snow palette? Pretty sure you can get colour trees in, right? Maybe it's just their vibe. Don't know, they kind of all look the same. Is this why people say it's so difficult to detail in snow? Okay. We're learning as we go here. Big fan of the snowy sugar maples though. We will absolutely run with these. Okay. So a couple of little snowy sugar maples instead of the flower trees here. I'll have a look at those flower trees after the episode today. You know, just a little repeatable design at the front of the school here. That's going to give us just a little more breathing room between the asset and everything else, right? I hope I'm making some kind of sense here, okay? Okay, and then again, I'm just going to box in another little pattern here. Just keep snapping to my angle. Bring that in. And then maybe let's introduce some rocks into here as well. Maybe kind of one large one, complemented with a couple of baby rocks. Okay, just kind of super little baby rocks here. And then we'll grab maybe taller tree. We could introduce the paladin pine back into the area, almost as though it's become like an invasive species, right? The paladin pine is pollinated, and kind of the seeds have been blown across the ocean into Noveria. It's now considered something of a pest. So let's grab in maybe a triplet of conifers here. A little bit of overgrowth, which is very, very subtle now with the snow, isn't it? You can just about tell it's there though. That's going to add in some texture. And then maybe a couple of kind of smaller looking trees out front here as well. Just a very natural rock garden, which is going to help border up the entrance into our city here as well. Keeping that kind of repeated designs and themes going. And there's people picking up the pathways now as well. I'm not going to upgrade this one to Nature Reserve. I'm quite happy with the gravel path for this one. That's going to look quite nice, okay? I think I'm fairly happy with that for the time being. So we can kind of see how the spice and the template is going to develop for this episode, right? This is going to be kind of the theme for this part of the town. Very kind of small town vibes, but also landscapes as well. You know, they're taking time to kind of plant these trees. Yeah, and the various city council is a little bit more considerate than the Paladin one, I think. Let's discuss some internal designs again for these little residential areas that we've got going on. So we've left a couple of spaces here open, haven't we? So let's have a look at this one. First of all, let's bring down a pathway that's going to run all the way. How about we switch up our fence in here? Let's grab some forestry fence maybe. Again, if you don't have the Industries DLC, then you won't have access to forestry fence. I'm going to come off all my snappings and then draw it along the back of the zoning. As close as we can before we hit the road, okay? And again, repeat the same thing on this side. Boxing in those residential areas. Get down to this as well. And also allow my pathway to hook down this way, up into our angle. And come through this area. And the same again. My fencing. It heads back down towards the main street. So the forestry fencing, it's got a really nice kind of wood panel on it. It serves nicely for decorating smaller path networks like this, okay? And again, where we have these corners in, this is a great opportunity to come through with some really tragic looking dead snowy bushes. We're learning as we go. We will find a palette that works for this, and then maybe some of these larger significant assets as well, and perhaps one kind of tall tree. Okay, we can just have to decorate out these little corners and generate some nice little green belt that's going to flow around our residentials. Also serve the purpose of keeping people walking in the area as well. Okay, very nice. So this is our current state of the city, right? Okay guys, so before we finish up today, we are getting a little warning, which is this little blue people with a red background icon, and this is referring to not enough educated workers. So let's have a little look at our education, shall we? Going to elementary, we are meeting the demand because we have the community school. However, we currently have a ton of high school availability. So we'll round out today's episode by constructing a little kind of highway school park, similar to what we did with the community school at the start of the city. So I think I'm going to bring a road down right about here and hook these guys together. Okay, I think that's too bad. Then we'll grab the high school asset itself, which is going to be this one right here, and we'll put this okay, so this is going to be a nice asset to sit up alongside the river here. Quite important looking, which I think I'm happy with. Let's have a look at a plaza to maybe sit outside. Let's have a look at the plaza with trees perhaps. This will work nicely here. Okay, it's going to back onto these commercials quite nicely too, which is always appreciated of course. I'm now thinking, do we want the high school actually facing the water? I think we probably do. So let's reconfigure the tennis court a little bit. Put the high school onto its other axis. That should be alright. Yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with that, okay? So these extra plazas are going to provide a touch more happiness for our Sims, which is going to be nice for them. Okay, let's have a little look at kind of boxing in with some pathways and fencing, just to try and make this little area feel like it's kind of one thing, like a little high school park. Okay, let's bring a pathway behind. Then I think we'll probably run with zoo fence. That's kind of a school fence, if that makes sense. Okay. Bring it through. We will break the fence pattern where the plaza is, which is fine. And then when we do eventually come to build our riverside park, we're going to get some nice pathway opportunities alongside this fence as well. Kind of walking past the school here. You can build an entranceway into it, of course. But we'll work on that when we come to the park. So this building has abandoned due to low education, so we'll delete him. And now these guys will slowly stabilise as the Sims around the area become educated from the high school. However guys, that does feel like a good place to jump into the first ever Noverian detailing time-lapse. We're going to carry on fleshing out some of the greenbelt ideas here using themes that we spoke about with paths, trees, bushes, rocks and fencing to help detail these guys up. And bring some kind of central park or plaza design here. I don't think we'll get anything to fit, maybe a playground. But yeah, there's probably something we can squeeze in here, maybe a dog park or something, right? All these park assets here just to help expand our residentials and keep everyone leveling up. And then likewise with our police station as well. Just continue to detail up with our usual palettes, and then we'll see what we're looking like towards the first ever Noveria cinematics. But otherwise, let's detail up, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed the start of Noveria, a like below is always appreciated. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. If you've really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider subscribing to the channel if you aren't already. And if you are missing any of the Cities Skylines DLCs that we've used in today's episode, there are links down to Instant Gaming below, which do help support the channel, and you get some insanely cheap codes in return. Really happy with this start. We can definitely see some kind of inspiration and ideas that we picked up over the course of Palaven, which for those following that series, Palaven will now move into live streams until we get to the final episode, at which point we will have a nice big cinematic farewell premiere here on the channel. Again, just a huge thank you for all support on the channel. It's nice to see a little Mass Effect community forming as well, alongside our little Cities Skylines community that we have at the same time. Yeah, I'm just really happy and blown away and super enthusiastic about what's coming for the channel this year. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the first ever snow episode. There was an absolute ton of detail in this episode, you guys wouldn't have seen it all, so hang around for the first ever Noveria cinematics. Otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.